The walnuts have got the aftertaste. The coconut doesn't work. You've overcomplicated something simple.
Oh man, that was disgusting. But here's a look at a few more times when chefs served disasters on MasterChef. Let's kick things off with Kyle from season 13, episode 9, when the contestants were getting ready to celebrate the show's milestone, its 250th episode. Now, you can already tell this one had to be special. Chef Ramsay made sure of that, setting the tone right from the start by revealing a stunning table of iconic cakes, each one designated for a specific contestant.
The United Cakes of America.
It was a beautiful sight, but it also came with a heavy dose of pressure. Kennedy, who had won the previous challenge, was given the power to assign the cakes. Naturally, she tried to look out for her West teammates, but that didn't mean she went easy on everyone. Wayne and Kyle from the Midwest, as well as Colby from the South, found themselves saddled with some of the more challenging desserts. The home cooks were given 90 minutes to pull off a flawless recreation of the cakes in front of them. Simple enough, right? Not quite. The time limit alone was enough to make some contestants buckle. Madame Donut, for instance, had a rough time with her pie, while Kendall's cream took a nosedive and splattered all over the floor.
Better. All kinds of Damn.
And to make things worse, Lizzie completely forgot to take her cake out of the oven on time. Talk about a high-pressure situation. Meanwhile, Kyle was also feeling the heat. He hadn't even started working on his garnish and his vanilla buttercream. Let's just say it was far from what he needed.
Jeez, this is not going well. My vanilla buttercream, it's not coming together.
In a last-ditch effort to save the frosting, Kyle tried throwing in some cream cheese to thicken it up. Clever? Maybe, but the judges weren't buying it for a second. They saw right through his desperate attempt.
What in the hell is Carl doing? He's just added cream cheese. My lemon cake does not call for cream cheese.
Dear oh dear.
With time quickly running out, Kyle's cake was still far from finished.
You've got to change gear. Just change gear. Yes, okay, don't worry about the frou-frou on top. Just get this done, the frosting around the outside.
Yes,
quick
chef.
You can. Quick.
You could see the tension in his eyes as the seconds ticked away. When the challenge finally ended, the judges made a quick round of each cake, assessing the good, the bad, and the downright disastrous before selecting their top 4. Kyle, standing there with a mix of hope and desperation, was feeling the pressure like never before. At one point, he even joked, though you could tell he was only half joking, about hoping someone would just pull the fire alarm to put him out of his misery.
Wayne, underneath that ganache are the 9 layers?
Yes, sir. That was tough.
I'm curious to hear what the judges have to say, but I'm also hoping somebody pulls a fire alarm.
The stress was real. After what felt like an eternity of deliberation, the judges finally reached a decision about who would walk away with this week's immunity pin. In a standout moment, Colby was announced as the winner, securing immunity for the next challenge, and perhaps more importantly, saving the entire South team from elimination.
Colby.
It was a major victory and a real game changer for Colby and his crew. But not everyone was riding high. The celebration didn't last long before the spotlight shifted to the bottom performers. The judges had the unpleasant task of addressing the worst cakes from each region, starting with Nina's German chocolate cake representing the Northeast. Joe didn't hold back on his critique, bluntly saying that the cake was, well, just plain ugly.
I think this cake has one fundamental problem. You see, there's just too much liquid, too much moisture. The center of the cake is falling out. It almost kind of feels like oatmeal.
Chef Ramsay piled on with his own criticism, saying the moistness or lack thereof was its ultimate undoing. Aesthetically unpleasant and dry? Not a good combo. Then, it was time for Kyle's Meyer lemon cake from the Midwest to face the music. And let's just say the reviews weren't exactly glowing. Joe, as usual, didn't sugarcoat his words, claiming that everything about the cake was wrong.
Every aspect of it is incorrect.
This is such a departure from that.
Ouch! Aaron wasn't any kinder, pointing out Kyle's critical mistake of adding cream cheese to the frosting in an attempt to salvage it, which only made things worse. Joe even went on to say that the taste was some bizarre cross between cheesecake and carrot cake. I mean, that's a combo I can't even wrap my head around. Definitely not what you want in a Meyer lemon cake. After the critiques, the judges faced a tough decision. It's never easy to send someone home, especially when they've worked so hard to get this far, but ultimately the axe fell on Kyle. Representing the Midwest, Kyle became the home cook chosen to leave the competition. It was a heavy blow for the Midwest team, and even Chef Ramsay seemed taken aback. He admitted that he'd fully expected Kyle to make it into the top 10, which made the elimination even more shocking. As the reality of his exit set in, Kyle got emotional. He acknowledged that the challenge had gotten the best of him, but at the same time, he expressed heartfelt gratitude for the opportunity to compete.
I came in here saying I was going to do some hard things. I was going to take some risks and I was going to push myself. This challenge got the better of me.
Watching someone who had so much potential leave the kitchen so early is always tough, and this was no exception. It's a harsh reminder of how one single challenge can completely turn the game upside down and send a strong contestant packing. Honestly, while I thought Nina's cake was an absolute disaster, what we saw next from the competition truly blew my mind. Just when you think you've seen it all, this show manages to surprise you.
I think adding that sausage was a good idea. I think you did a good job. Thank you.
Did you taste your wife's dish?
But how exactly did we end up here? Let me take you back to episode 3 of season 3, where 36 eager contestants, fresh from their auditions, were waiting nervously to face their fate in the MasterChef kitchen.
You are the top 36. Well done.
Each of you have got a 1 in 36 chance at $250,000. Your very own cookbook. And most importantly, the MasterChef trophy.
This was it. Just one more challenge stood between them and a coveted spot in the top 18. They were so close to their dreams of becoming the next MasterChef, yet the stakes were incredibly high. After all, half of them would be hanging up their aprons and saying goodbye to their dreams at the end of the day. As you can imagine, nobody wanted to go home. The tension was thick in the air, but it was about to get even more intense when they saw the challenge in front of them.
This is super intense, walking in and seeing these amazing sides of beef.
I'm thinking, awesome, I got this. I love beef.
The sight that greeted the home cooks was jaw-dropping. Everyone was in awe trying to process the scene in front of them, but the surprises didn't stop there.
I hear the beeping around me. I'm blind, and I can tell everyone's oohing and awing, and I'm thinking, I have no idea what's going on. I'm just trying to take in the sounds and stuff.
Honestly, it was like something straight out of a cooking show fever dream. Christine's reaction said it all, and she wasn't alone. Every single contestant was left wondering what on earth was happening.
All of a sudden, there's this big, crazy-looking robot machine. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is insane.
Thankfully, Chef Ramsay didn't leave them hanging for long. In true dramatic fashion, he revealed the challenge they'd be facing.
The beef you'll be cooking today is ground beef.
Ground beef is incredibly versatile, and that's why it's part of almost every country's cuisine.
If we see 36 bland burgers, we're gonna scream and you're gonna go home. Use your imagination.
Now, the pantry behind us.
Their task? To turn 2 pounds of ground beef into a show-stopping dish, all within 60 minutes. Sounds easy, right? Trust me, it's not. With that kind of time crunch, every second counts. And before the contestants could get started, they had to make sure they grabbed their main ingredient.
So we're walking up this big giant machine, and we had this big bowl, and they had these big levers, and they're getting ready to pull this sludge down, and all I kept thinking was like Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Come on, gentlemen.
This dish has to be perfect. Half of us are going home. That's a ton. Like, just gone. Can't be me. So the heat is on.
Chef Ramsay's words rang in their ears. The possibilities are limitless, but time is not. As soon as the clock started, it was absolute chaos. The contestants rushed to the pantry, scrambling to grab every ingredient they thought might elevate their dish.
I am running for my life.
Does anybody see stock and broth?
This competition can be won or lost in this first 5 minutes.
Halfway through the cook time, the judges started walking around, peeking into everyone's stations.
That I have in me right now because there are some amazing cooks here.
I haven't paid attention to anybody around me. It sounds like everybody's doing something creative and fun, and hopefully mine will be better than all theirs.
You could feel the tension rising with every second that ticked by. With just a few moments left, the contestants were furiously plating their dishes, making sure every detail was perfect.
Make this count. 10, 9, 8.
The pressure was insane. When the clock finally hit 0, the kitchen fell silent, and it was time for the judges to decide who would stay and who would be sent packing. The suspense was unreal. But just when you thought the drama was over, the judges threw a major curveball. Instead of giving the verdict right away, they divided the contestants into 3 groups.
I'm totally confused. There's like 2 groups up front, but there's still a bunch of us left in the back. And I don't know if that means that we're gonna get to go through.
No one knew what was going on, and the confusion was palpable. What could this possibly mean? First, they called 2 groups of 12 to the front, and the tension in the room was at an all-time high. You could see the contestants exchanging nervous glances, wondering what was about to happen next.
I'm looking at their group and I'm looking at my group and I'm freaking out because I've come so far and I just can't let my dream be over. This can't be it for me. I'm not worried.
Then came the big twist. One of the groups was about to head straight to the top 18. Relief and excitement filled the air for that lucky group, but for the other 12, the reality was brutal. They were being sent home. You could feel the devastation sink in, and it was hard not to feel for them. Of all the people in that group, I was especially heartbroken to see Joel, the soldier with dreams of opening his own restaurant, pack his knives.
I am disappointed, but the restaurant Jermaine's will be open, and I will definitely send an invite out to Gordon Ramsay.
It was a tough blow for him, and you could see the disappointment written all over his face. But wait, what about the third and final group of 12? These contestants were called forward, dishes in hand, standing there with bated breath. You could almost hear their hearts pounding. Joe asked 4 people to step forward: David Mack, AJ, Anna, and Tanya.
Which is why we are going to take a closer look at your dishes.
Bring your dishes down to the front.
But what did it mean? Were they safe or were they out? The judges were about to take a closer look at their dishes, starting with Anna. She nervously approached the front with her beef stuffed onions with raisins, toasted walnuts, and horseradish creme. Joe kept it brief with his feedback, and that only made her more anxious.
It's interesting.
Chef Ramsay, as always, wasn't easy to impress, but his critique wasn't as harsh as expected. There was definitely room for improvement, but overall, not too bad.
Nice flavor. It does work, but I want more color.
I see.
The inside has to look as delicious as the outside.
I understand. Thank you.
Next up was AJ, who walked up with his orecchiette pasta, broccoli rabe, and fennel meatballs. Graham gave his thoughts, and while the idea behind the dish was solid, it ended up being a little too bland and unappetizing.
There's a nice little spice. I think adding that sausage was a good idea. I think you did a good job. Thank you.
Did you taste your wife's dish?
I did not.
A real disappointment, especially considering the potential the dish had. Then came the nerve-wracking moment for Anna and AJ. Both stood side by side, waiting for the verdict. Joe, in his usual dramatic fashion, only made the suspense worse with his comments.
And that you both love food. I will invite you to say goodbye to each other right now, because there is a separation about to happen.
No matter what happens.
Despite the tension, the two of them shared a supportive hug, knowing that only one would make it through.
Knowing I'm going to be saying goodbye to my wife is very emotional.
Finally, the decision was made.
AJ, Anna, you're going through to the kitchen. Congratulations.
It was bittersweet. One of them headed to the safety of the balcony, while the other had to leave the kitchen. It just goes to show how tough this competition really is. One mistake can send you packing. But not all was lost for Anna, who made a heartfelt promise to do her best moving forward.
I am determined to kick some butt in this competition for the both of us and win that trophy. That is my goal.
Next up, let's dive into the juicy drama from Season 6, Episode 4, when things really started to heat up during a pressure test. Dara's team found themselves on the losing end of the challenge, which meant they had to face the dreaded pressure test. Now, this is where the tension kicks in. Out of the 10 talented chefs, only 5 were unlucky enough to be selected for the test. And guess who got to decide their fate? Yep, none other than Dara herself. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Dara ended up saving 2 people that seemed to come out of nowhere, Alyssa and Sarah.
Dara is saving her friends instead of the people who really worked hard. And where I'm from, you don't do that.
I mean, seriously, what made her pick them? It was a total surprise, and no one saw it coming. But Dara didn't stop there. She made some more strategic saves by sparing Dan and Claudia from the pressure test. And just when you thought things couldn't get any crazier, Chef Ramsay upped the stakes by presenting Dara with an irresistible offer.
In this final choice, you can choose yourself.
Talk about a tempting deal. Saving herself was right there on the table. Meanwhile, Derek was watching this all unfold with his arms crossed and a laser-focused glare. He was just waiting to see how far Dara would go and how selfish she might be.
Captain, I need an answer.
Oh, the tension. Thankfully, Dara showed she still had a conscience and did the right thing.
Ethel, I'm not gonna take it.
She ended up saving Hetal, which definitely surprised everyone. But here's the real kicker: Hetal, in an incredible display of selflessness, stepped up and volunteered to take on the pressure test herself. Not only that, she handed over her immunity to someone else.
Derek should take it.
I respect your honesty. Young man, you went to hell and back yesterday. Off you go.
Thank you.
Now, that's what you call teamwork and camaraderie. Now, let's dive into the challenge of the night.
Cinnamon rolls. Ooh. Rich, perfectly cooked pastry.
Yep, none other than the deliciously tricky cinnamon rolls. Christina Tosi revealed the task with that signature flair, and let me tell you, reactions were all over the place. Tommy, though, he was not feeling it.
I don't even eat cinnamon rolls. Obviously.
Baking just wasn't his thing, and he couldn't resist throwing a cheeky jab at Katrina, suggesting she probably knew more about sweets than he ever would. Oh, Tommy, always stirring the pot. With 45 minutes on the clock, Dara, Hetal, Olivia, Tommy, and Katrina were off, racing against time to bake their cinnamon rolls. As the sweet, mouth-watering scent filled the air, the judges couldn't help but reflect on Dara's earlier decisions.
People. I thought Katrina and Derek would have been the first two to send up there. There's no reason Katrina should be down here. She's really in an emotional state right now.
They actually thought Katrina should have been saved instead. But here's the twist, they were also saying Katrina was in an emotional state. Now, I gotta ask, what's with all the sudden sympathy? Over the past few weeks, Chef Ramsay had been super lenient with her when she was messing up, like forgetting things or crying during challenges. And let's not forget this week, she straight up dropped a tray of fish and botched her batter, which left the fish raw. Yet, no one seemed to care. Isn't that a bit odd? Why does she seem to always get a free pass? And let's not overlook the fact that Katrina wasn't exactly keeping her thoughts to herself. She made it clear she wanted Tommy gone. But when Chef Ramsay asked Tommy who he thought should be eliminated, Tommy didn't hold back.
I bet you tried to throw me under the bus, Katrina.
I'm just telling the truth. Tommy's going home because all he is talk.
I shall show her a lesson.
With a snarl and a pointed finger aimed right at Katrina, he fired off, "The bitch who tried to throw me under the bus. I want her gone." Oh man, the kitchen drama was boiling over at that point. Of course, Katrina wasn't about to just sit there and take it. She let out a loud laugh, clearly not fazed by Tommy's bluntness. And well, that's where things stood. Graham, always quick to notice the smallest details, was the first to point out that Dara was seriously falling behind.
I'm really nervous. How much time do you have to get these in? I mean, they're getting theirs rolled. She's got her liquid ready.
Right here, Chef. I'm right here. I just need to roll this out. Thank you very much.
While the rest of the contestants had their cinnamon rolls prepped and ready for the oven, Dara seemed to be floundering, with nothing yet prepared. The clock was ticking, and things were not looking good for her. When it came time for judgment, Dara had to face the music first.
Today I prepared some anise-flavored cinnamon rolls with lemon zest, clove, and cinnamon icing.
Let's be honest here, what she presented wasn't exactly a culinary masterpiece. In fact, it didn't look appetizing at all. If I were in that kitchen, I'd steer clear of a dish like that. But Chef Ramsay decided to give it a try anyway. He took one bite and immediately realized the insides weren't cooked through at all.
Even on top, the dough's raw. There's a touch here. It's salvageable.
Yikes, that's gotta sting. As for the taste, well, I'll leave that to Chef Ramsay himself to describe.
The walnuts have got the aftertaste. The coconut doesn't work. You've overcomplicated something simple.
The combination of anise, lemon zest, and cinnamon icing just didn't work together. In other words, the whole thing was way off. Christina, on the other hand, had an even stronger reaction.
The nutmeg, anise is almost becoming overbearing.
Her disappointment was plain as day. Her face said it all. And Dara? She could only muster a pained grimace, trying to keep her cool despite the disastrous result. Then, it was Tommy's turn to face the judges. Chef Ramsay, ever the showman, set the stage with a glowing introduction, complimenting Tommy's unique fashion sense, style, and artistic flair. But would his baking match up to the praise?
There is a green tea filling, cinnamon, allspice, pistachio nuts. The flavor profile is out of this world.
Let's have a look inside the box.
As Chef Ramsay opened the box, his initial excitement quickly turned to shock and disbelief.
What in the is that? Oh, Tommy.
What he found inside was an absolute mess, a pile of green and tan gloop that even Tommy seemed embarrassed by. Katrina, meanwhile, couldn't contain herself. She burst out laughing at the sight of Tommy's disaster.
The first tuxedo is not going to come out great.
But hold
it's
on.
always number 2 and number 3.
Now that was a full-on kitchen catastrophe. Tommy, in an attempt to make light of his disastrous creation, came up with a rather confusing comparison. He compared his culinary disaster to a first tuxedo, implying that while this dish might not be perfect, his future attempts would surely improve. Really, Tommy? That's quite an unusual analogy. Chef Ramsay didn't buy this comparison and responded with a sharp retort.
I'll be going for number 2.
Ouch, that was pretty harsh. As Chef Ramsay continued to tease Tommy, Tommy retreated to his station, clearly embarrassed. Katrina's soft giggles didn't help ease the situation at all.
And Katrina is laughing at me. At me, Tommy Walton.
As the elimination moment drew closer, the tension in the kitchen was palpable. After a lot of suspense, the results were finally announced. Hettel emerged victorious, followed by Katrina and Olivia, which left Tommy and Dara facing elimination with only one of them safe.
2 substandard efforts. Tommy, you know that was one of your worst performances.
In a surprising turn of events, despite Tommy's disastrous performance, the judges decided to eliminate Dara instead.
I get to still be around Katrina.
Dara, I'm sorry to say, but tonight, your journey...
This left many viewers scratching their heads, especially given that Tommy's dish had been the worst of the night. Dara, however, handled her departure with grace, leaving the kitchen with a smile as she bid farewell to her friends on the balcony.
It has been such a tremendous blessing and an honor to be here. I say to all of my fellow contestants...
So, the lingering question is, did Dara deserve to stay over Tommy? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'm really curious to hear what you think. So, let's move on to another not-so-appetizing dish served up by Caitlin and Jeff. In episode 14 of Season 8, Jason emerged as the winner of the Mystery Box Challenge, which earned him immunity for the evening. But things took an interesting turn when Jason made a series of decisions that had the potential to send some of the other home cooks home.
That's right, Jason decides who will be paired up for tonight's challenge.
But this isn't just any old elimination challenge.
For the upcoming challenge, the home cooks were split into pairs by Jason. He chose Kate as his most significant competitor and paired her with Dino. Following that, Yachesia and Ebony were paired together, then Jeff and Caitlin, and finally, Daniel and Gabriel. As all this was unfolding, Jason kept a close watch from the safety of the balcony above. The challenge required the teams to create an impeccable platter of Mexican food, replicating exactly what Aaron had displayed.
Mexican food.
However, as is often the case, there was a catch. Only one member of each team could be actively cooking at any given time, while the other had to wait at the end of the counter, ready to step in and finish off the dish. They had just 60 minutes to complete this task. And Jeff and Caitlin started strong, with Jeff taking on a dominant role within their team.
We're gonna start making the tortillas. We gotta get that going from a priority standpoint.
I'm alright with that.
However, this dynamic led to some tension because Caitlin allowed Jeff to dictate their strategy instead of standing up for herself.
How do you feel about deveining the prawns and getting those ready for me?
Meanwhile, Christina noticed some friction between Ebony and Yaketia and advised Ebony to work through these issues to maintain a smooth workflow.
I keep talking, I want to hear your voice, let's go!
As the challenge progressed and time continued to slip away, the pressure mounted, with each team striving to create the perfect platter. With just 5 minutes remaining, the focus shifted to assembling the final dishes. However, Ebony and Yachesia struggled to sync up, leading to difficulties in their teamwork. Meanwhile, Jeff and Caitlin were running out of time, still working on tortillas rather than focusing on the platter itself, with only 3 minutes left on the clock.
Get the churros fresh!
Jeff, I can only think one step ahead. Caitlin and Jeff are still making tortillas.
Oh my lord. Unbelievable. 3 minutes to go!
When the final buzzer went off, Jeff and Caitlin presented their completed platter. Unfortunately, things didn't turn out well for them. Jeff was dominant throughout the challenge, while Caitlin started making excuses.
I felt like Jeff was talking me through things that were 4 or 5 steps down the road, and that just made it harder for me to focus on the task at hand.
Asked to rate their platter, Caitlin gave it a low score of 3 or 4, whereas Jeff rated it a 7, thinking it wasn't as bad as Caitlin made it out to be. However, Chef Ramsay delivered a scathing critique.
Because everything's there, it doesn't mean that this is on a 7. Come on, guys.
He described the lamb as looking like dog food, refused to even glance at the tacos, and criticized the churros for their lack of quality. In fact, Chef Ramsay was so disgusted that he even spat out the food.
Yeah, shocking.
When he saw the chicken, he humorously compared its texture to his grandmother's flip-flops. The only positive remark he made was about the china the food was served on. As judgment time arrived, Jeff and Caitlin faced the judges. Chef Ramsay reminded them of Jeff's overbearing attitude and noted that Caitlin's voice had essentially disappeared. Since Caitlin had willingly taken a back seat, the judges decided to give her exactly what she had opted for. And that's how Caitlin's time on the show came to an abrupt end.
Okay, seriously, guys, one of the things that is most important is your personality. People love when you smile.
A theme park is a place for entertainment. So I know even if the food isn't really that great, people will still be excited about the smile that you put on your face.
We're heading over to Knott's Berry Farm, where one contestant was absolutely thrilled.
Walking into that theme park, this is like a dream come true because I work at a theme park. So I'm really excited that this is our first team challenge.
It turns out that Dara had previously worked at an amusement park, so this was right up her alley. But Dara wasn't the only one buzzing with excitement. Everyone had big smiles on their faces until they heard the unexpected news.
All of the people coming through these gates today will be fed by you.
Wow.
Imagine the pressure of cooking for an entire amusement park. That's intense. Leave it to the judges to come up with a plan to pull this off. The 20 contestants were divided into 2 teams of 10. Carrie, an HR rep, led the blue team, while Dara, the park enthusiast, took charge of the red team. Dara was practically glowing as she reminisced about her days at the park.
This is my element. It's a place that I really enjoy. So whatever challenge is about to come, I am ready for it and I can't wait.
How long have you been working at a theme park?
Almost 10 years.
You should be setting your team up for success.
But could she translate her amusement park expertise into leading her team through a cooking challenge? We'll find out. Here's the challenge. Each team had to prepare 2 dishes for every hungry guest, a delicious burger with onion rings and coleslaw, and a classic fish and chips. Then came the twist. The park's guests would be the judges. They'd cast their votes by wildly swinging a sledgehammer at an old-timey bell. I'm excited to see how this turns out, and it's not just a few people we're talking about. When Graham said all park attendees would be fed, he meant a staggering 500 guests. And here's another twist to the challenge. If a team didn't plate a guest's food within 10 seconds of its arrival, they'd automatically lose that vote. Yeah, with that kind of pressure, the teams had a lot to discuss. They needed to strategize and collaborate to execute this huge task effectively.
All right, who has experience on the grill? I need to know that first. Who has grill experience? So I've got 1, I've got 2, I've got 3 on grill. All right, so we're gonna go with a classic burger and we're gonna focus on the sauce that we're gonna put on the burger.
I'm big on sauce, okay? I do a sriracha honey sauce.
When the challenge began, Carrie's red team was on fire. Their leader quickly assigned tasks, and before long, they had their menu mapped out and were deep into preparation. Talk about efficiency.
We could do a barbecue sauce for it. Beer batter barbecue.
All right, barbecue. What you got, Steven?
I got Cajun fish and chips.
Cajun fish, we're going with that. As team captain, I'll only put everybody where their strengths will allow them to shine. So I'm very confident that we're going to take home the win.
In contrast, Dara's blue team struggled to get things moving.
I'm good with the fries. I'm questioning Dara's decisions. She's asking who wants to do what. And that's not what you do as a team captain, because now everyone's manning your ship.
Okay, seriously, guys, one of the things that is most important is your personality.
Derek, clearly not impressed by Dara's over-the-top approach, bluntly commented, "She's clueless." And if that wasn't enough, Dara's pep talk seemed more focused on smiling and entertaining amusement park visitors rather than actually cooking. Seriously? Did she forget they were here to cook, not win a popularity contest? With Dara's misguided leadership, the blue team quickly descended into chaos.
Derek, I know you're working hard. Thank you so much.
What was that advice supposed to accomplish? Dara was mostly running around, shouting generic motivational phrases that sounded like they belonged on a motivational poster. None of it was helpful for cooking, and Derek didn't hesitate to call her out on it. Can't argue with that assessment. The drama didn't end there. Tommy had zeroed in on a new target for the season, sweet, unassuming Katrina.
Put a lot in there.
Stop.
Okay, can you?
Stop.
When you're one person on an assembly line making the batter for everything, honey, you've got to do this fast.
He was frustrated with her slow pace, especially since she was in charge of the important batter for the fish and onion rings. Despite his attempts to communicate, Katrina became flustered and told him to leave her alone. Meanwhile, Dara seemed to be floating around in the background, smiling at the sky and failing to get anything productive done. It was like she was in her own little world, completely out of touch with the reality of the cooking competition. On the flip side, the red team was excelling. Even though Chef Ramsay thought they might have overcomplicated things with 3 sauce options for their burger, at least they were pulling it together. In stark contrast, Dara's blue team had only managed to prepare 45 burgers and hadn't even started on the fish yet. To make things even worse, Katrina had a major blunder and dropped an entire tray of prepped fish on the floor.
Are you okay? Fine.
Oh, man.
You okay, Katrina?
Yeah.
Dara! Look at me.
Yes,
Should
Chef.
we just cut to the chase and go straight to a pressure test?
Chef Ramsay was at his breaking point and lost his cool with Dara, angrily suggesting they should skip the rest of the challenge and head straight to the pressure test.
Look at me.
Yes, Chef.
Should we just cut to the chase and go straight to a pressure test? This is insane. No fish cooked.
As if things couldn't get worse, nobody on the blue team was even smiling anymore. It was clearly not their best moment.
This is insane. No fish cooked.
Despite Dara's struggles as a leader, Dan, Derek, and Claudia stepped up. They began cranking out plates, and for a moment, it seemed like things might improve for the blue team.
And Dara is really not doing anything. So I drop everything I'm doing and run to the back of that station. My MO is to get that fish in that fryer and get it cooking now.
The blue team is serving a cheeseburger with beer-battered onion rings, chipotle mayonnaise, and purple cabbage coleslaw, and beer-battered fish and chips.
Derek has burgers in one spot.
Bring me sliced tomatoes, please.
We have communication front to back.
We need more fries.
Everyone is working their butts off.
Here you go.
And we're being successful.
But the improvement was short-lived. When Chef Ramsay tasted the fried fish, he was shocked by its rawness.
Stop. Stop. Stop, 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 stop. The fish is raw.
It's raw.
He went ballistic, threatening to shut them down if he encountered any more raw fish.
That's not undercooked. That is ice cold and raw. Get your together.
Yes, Chef.
Because right now, this is dangerous.
Under no circumstance would I ever eat that myself, nonetheless want that for someone else to get sick off of, possibly.
And that was just the beginning of the blue team's downfall. Later on, Katrina's batter turned out to be far too thick.
Katrina?
Yes!
The batter is too thick. Nothing's cooking in it. Why? Because all this flour's gone in there. It's just like a big cement mixer with at the bottom.
I'll make a fresh one.
With only 5 customers left to serve, Dara continued to force a smile and deliver her ineffective pep talks, which didn't seem to make a difference.
That's for you.
That's it, guys. That is it. Good job.
Relief.
Despite the challenges, both teams completed the task, and Chef Ramsay had an exciting way to reveal the results. So, who won the challenge? Well, it's no surprise.
Thank you, Graham. Amazing. Well done. Absolutely brilliant.
The red team scored a decisive victory with 59% of the votes, and they were thrilled with the outcome, while Dara couldn't help but tear up on camera, lamenting that it should have been easier, especially since it was supposed to be her strength.
I'm pretty devastated that my teammates and I have to go into a pressure test, especially because that means someone's going home.
We had a leader, and we didn't come up with the right plan.
Unfortunately for Dara, her poor leadership meant the blue team faced the pressure test the next day. When the blue team entered the kitchen, Dara tried to highlight the positives and name those who did things right.
They all listened and I delegated. Dan was in charge of our chips. He was very quick with what he was doing. Olivia did, I thought, great with the slosh. She had me taste it and she fixed it when it needed to be fixed.
We're here because you lost.
It was clear she was trying to save face. However, Christina quickly cut her off, reminding Dara that they lost, so those points were moot.
It's time to really face the fact that you guys are down here facing a pressure test because you lost.
Tommy, what in the hell happened there yesterday?
Next, accusations began to fly. Tommy threw some sharp criticism at Katrina, saying she responded to his attempts at communication with total dissatisfaction and disdain. Katrina countered by accusing Tommy of relentlessly attacking her and refusing to listen. Cue the waterworks.
Not as upset as the customers were yesterday.
Correct.
Blue team, it's time to face your very first pressure test.
But here's where things felt unfair. Out of the 10 chefs on the blue team, only 5 would face the pressure test, and Dara was the one who got to decide.
You're saving Elsa because she had a happy face.
And when people needed her, she was there for them.
But, okay. Elsa, please, head to the balcony.
Wow. Sarah, dismal performance.
Head upstairs.
Thank you.
I'm mad. Dara is saving her friends instead of the people who really worked hard. And where I'm from, you don't do that.
She spared Dan and Claudia, leaving everyone on edge to see who she would choose next. Derek, arms crossed and glaring at Dara, was waiting to see just how selfish she would be.
Captain, I need an answer.
Ethel.
I'm not gonna take it.
In a surprising turn, Dara made a commendable choice. She saved Hatel, who then made an unexpected move by volunteering to compete and generously passing her immunity to Derek. And with that, the challenge for the night was set.
Rich, perfectly cooked pastry. Gooey frosting. A classic American breakfast treat.
Baking is not my forte. I don't even eat cinnamon rolls.
Tommy, Katrina, Dara, Hetel, and Olivia had 45 minutes to bake a dozen cinnamon rolls to fill a box. As they got to work, the judges debated Dara's decisions and concluded that Katrina should have been saved instead.
I thought Katrina and Derek would have been the first two to send up there. There's no reason Katrina should be down here. She's really in an emotional state right now.
I was impressed that Hethel didn't take the pass.
Admirable.
I respect that.
It's exactly the kind of thing you want to see in our own brigade.
However, Graham quickly noticed that Dara was falling behind her peers. While everyone else was already starting to cook, she hadn't even begun yet.
They're not gonna bake. Come on, Tommy, get it in.
Tommy is still not in the oven, and it's 21 minutes to go.
It seemed like she had lost her edge that day. When it was time to present her dish, here's what she came up with.
Go, what's in the box?
Today I prepared some anise-flavored cinnamon rolls with lemon zest, clove, and cinnamon icing.
Oh, darn.
Chef Ramsay approached to taste it, but here's how it turned out.
There's a touch here. That is salvageable. Damn. The walnuts have got the aftertaste. The coconut doesn't work. You've overcomplicated.
The anise, lemon zest, and cinnamon icing couldn't salvage her dish. Christina wasn't impressed either.
These are not that exciting at face value. The nutmeg, anise is almost becoming overbearing.
Though Dara tried to maintain a confident smile, she knew deep down that things weren't looking good.
Anise-flavored cinnamon rolls with lemon zest, clove, and cinnamon icing.
In the end, Hetal took the win, with Katrina and Olivia safe as well. This left Tommy and Dara on the chopping block, and it was clear that Dara would be leaving the MasterChef kitchen for good. But her exit interview might just bring a smile to your face.
Good job, Dara. We'll miss you.
Well, that's one way to handle defeat. Anyway, let's move on to Season 9, Episode 6, where things got a bit chaotic. The top 20 contestants headed to the Anheuser-Busch Brewery in Van Nuys, California. They were split into two teams, and Chelsea took charge of the blue team, while Bowen was at the helm of the red team. Their mission this time? Both teams had to cook up dishes for 101 brewery employees, but there was a twist. Every dish had to include beer as one of the ingredients. So, not your usual home-cooked meal. To make things even more interesting, the employees would be the judges, and they had the final say in which team would come out on top. Now, let's talk about the menu. The contestants were given two choices: a fried chicken sandwich with beer-battered onion rings and corn salad, or beer-battered fish and chips with coleslaw and tartar sauce. Here's where things start to get tricky. Chelsea, as the leader of the blue team, had the first pick, but instead of choosing the dish, she decided to select her team members first.
Chelsea, if I was you, girl, pick the fish, pick the fish. Fish is so much easier. Work smart, not hard.
Honestly, if you ask me, she would have been better off picking a simpler dish. That small slip gave Bowen's red team the opportunity to jump in and claim the fish and chips before the blue team could rethink their strategy. As for the time crunch, both teams had 75 minutes to get everything prepped. But right from the get-go, the blue team stumbled, even though they seemed to have a strong lineup.
Hey, Derek, did you hear me? Take all your corn at once.
No, I'm not doing all at once. I want to test some first.
It quickly became clear that Chelsea, who was supposed to be leading, was struggling to keep everyone on track. The team's performance soon unraveled, and let's just say their execution was far from what you'd expect at this level. For some reason, the blue team had this collective know-it-all vibe where everyone thought they'd be better off just doing their own thing.
You do not want a line of flour underneath your batter. It's not gonna cook off.
This is not my first time frying chicken.
What you were witnessing was a major lack of teamwork and communication from the start. Then came the moment of reckoning. It was time for the brewery employees to try the food. But here's what caught Ramsay's attention. Chelsea, the leader of the blue team, was just standing around doing absolutely nothing. Ramsay couldn't believe what he was seeing.
Chelsea, I don't want them standing there with nothing.
Okay.
So we go up there, we expedite. We need a system though, don't we?
Lindsay, I need you to do the make the sandwich. Yeah.
To make matters worse, the entire blue kitchen came to a standstill because Chelsea was more focused on cooking her own dish instead of leading her team and getting those orders out on time. I mean, seriously, what's the point of being a leader if you're not even going to coordinate? Just when things couldn't get any worse, Ramsay spotted it, yep, a piece of raw chicken.
Yeah. You double check it.
Yeah, that chicken's not going out, Chef. That's not an appropriate piece of chicken.
Blue team! Hey, stop.
And as you can imagine, Ramsay was beyond furious.
Look, what's that there?
Raw chicken.
That's not 30 seconds. That's minutes away.
In his typical fashion, he didn't hold back and tossed an entire batch of chicken in the trash, no mercy whatsoever.
No, sir.
No, get them in the trash. And trust me, if we could salvage it, I'd salvage it, but you know damn well we can't salvage that.
And guess what happened next? Of course they ran out of chicken. Ramsay was practically speechless at this point.
And nor should you.
We're out of chicken.
What?
We're out of chicken.
Even though the blue team managed to feed all the diners by cutting the remaining chicken in half to stretch their portions, it wasn't enough. They ended up losing the challenge to the red team, who had played it safe from the get-go. So, can you think of more times when contestants served disgusting food on MasterChef? Make sure to get in the comments. And before you go, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. And hey, if you want to see something even crazier, check out my latest video right here.